Hi, and welcome to the Sales RX podcast. We provide actionable insights for revenue professionals looking to find the right prescription in their sales process. So let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome to all my Sales RXers and first-time listeners to the Sales RX podcast. I'm your host and your sales doctor, Chet Lovegren, and I'm super stoked for our episode today. We're going to be talking about the SDR promotion path and how SDRs can set realistic expectations and manage those expectations with their leadership. I have a special guest with me today, Josh Roth. Josh is a sales leader for high-growth, late-stage B2B SaaS companies looking to exit. He's also one of the few people you'll probably meet who not only has a World Series ring, but also an acquisition in a company he founded and an IPO. So really cool triad of things there. He's currently the Senior Director of Inside Sales over at Lob. Josh, happy Friday. Welcome.
Chad, thank you so much. Happy to be here and happy Friday to you too.
Thank you, sir. So today we're talking about those SDR promotion paths, how an SDR can set realistic expectations and manage those expectations with their manager. We've talked before. It seems like a really important topic because it seems like every SDR expects a direct promotion AE, right? Even after just being a year in as an SDR. In my experience leading SDRs, very rarely do they actually tend to stick that year out. You see a lot of 6, 8, 9-month SDR, BDR tenures, and then they move to another company as an SDR, BDR, and maybe they're there for 8 months and then they become an AE, right? Even more rarely have I found that SDRs actually do hit that AE quota once they're promoted. So I kind of want to turn things over to you and learn a little bit about your thoughts on this. Specifically, where did this one and done mentality come from? Why did it become a norm in the SDR world? And like really as leaders too, like how do we solve for that? So both sides of the coin for not only the individual contributor and the SDR themselves, but also leadership and how they solve for this.
Yeah, Chet, really exciting topic and pumped to be kind of chatting this through. I think my answer is both simple and complex, I think all at the same time. My simple answer is I actually think that LinkedIn plays a really big part in this. SDRs see their peers, their friends, their colleagues taking promotions, getting new jobs, getting promoted after 6, 8, 12 months, and they feel like I want it too, right? And I think that the challenging part is LinkedIn only shows the tip of the iceberg, right? LinkedIn isn't showing how many dials that SDR that got promoted made. They're not showing the territory. They're not showing, most importantly, what the business needs are, right? Because ultimately, promotions, professional development within an organization, it really just boils back to one question, which is, what are the needs of the business, right? Is the business need demanding another AE? Right? Because if it's not, then you can be at 250%. But if there's not a role open, ultimately it's going to be challenging even at that level of performance to move into the next position. Yeah. And I think that the way that information is disseminated and digested in today's professional culture is influencing how SDRs feel about their role. And I think that if you really pull back the curtain, one of the challenges is SDRs, I think, may not, and some probably do, but may not have an understanding of what companies to evaluate for and how to evaluate and really read the tea leaves of companies that they are looking to take a job at and what their growth trajectory really looks like, right? For example, if a company has just raised a round, or if they raised a round a little while back, right? Maybe they get to the next stage of growth and they raise another round of funding, more roles are created, which therefore would mean more opportunities are created for you to take that step up. Right. But I think a lot of this is actually just the SDR's evaluation of the companies. And I'll give you an example. was chatting with an SDR maybe 2 months ago. And he was at a 110 person company. And of the 110 employees, their BDR team was 25 people. Just their outbound BDR team was 25 out of the 110 people. It was such a diluted organization that there is naturally going to be so much competition to get to that next AE level. And he never asked the questions in his interview process of how many AEs are there? What do you project the AE growth to be, right? How big is the current BDR team, right? What do you project that growth to be? Current organization is 110 employees. What do you project that growth to be, right? And those are the questions that are going to determine really whether you as the SDR are able to take that next role by just performing or not. There's a company that contacted me actually this week, and their promotion path for AEs is actually pretty simple. If as an outbound SDR, you hit 150% for 6 months, you get promoted. And if you hit 100% over 9 months, you get promoted to an AE. But this is a company that, I'm not going to share the logo because I don't want to, out anybody. Yeah. But this would be a company that, I'm sure you could peg as one of those, not surprising. They've raised massive, gargantuan rounds for really like 15, 18 months consecutively. I mean, they have so much growth and so much cash that it stands to reason that that's their promotion process, right?
Yeah.
And as an SDR, if you're not asking those questions right up front of how can I get to this next level? And what do I need to do to get there? And what does the promotion path look like? What is the AE growth expected to be? What is the BDR growth expected to be? Then you're naturally going to be probably in a situation where if you accept a role that you don't have the answers to, you're going to be in a tougher spot than others that have asked those questions. And then you might be looking at others LinkedIn saying, boy, how did they get this job and I didn't? I'm performing at such a high level. But remember, it's you versus yourself. It's you versus yesterday, right? You're not competing with anyone else. Don't let the noise of LinkedIn and the glamour and shine of someone else's job, get to you. Recognize that each person has their own journey and that your own evaluation is going to set you up for either the opportunity or potentially the lack thereof.
That's great. And I mean, the devil's in the details, right? I've met, as you probably have, plenty of AEs who got promoted, or former SDRs who got promoted to AE too quickly, who probably made more when you talk about variable comp as an SDR with the amount of success they had versus the amount of failure that they were having as an AE. And so somebody might look at that and go, wow, they were SDR for 6 months. Now they're an AE. Maybe out of business need. Maybe the business is like, hey, you're your top SDR and we'd rather have you than somebody cold from the outside. But then they don't do well, right? And so I think you kind of dove into the next topic a little bit that I wanted to uncover, which was really, as an SDR, what point should you be concerning yourself with setting that expectation with your manager that like, hey, I want to be an AE? Like, how soon is too soon? Because to me, it sounds like you're pretty adamant about setting that expectation in the interview process. Is that correct?
You are spot on. I think the short answer is there is no point that's too soon. I mean, I want to know where you want to go, whether that's AE, AM. I mean, it could be RevOps, marketing, it could be an engineer, right? To me, it doesn't matter where you want to go, because my job as the leader of or the functional leader is to define a path, or if there's not a defined path, work with you to define a path to help you get to the next role that you want to get to, whether that be an AE or any other role. And the earlier you raise your hand and say, I want to be an AE, the earlier we can start to chart that course, right? Where do you need to be at the end of week 1, month 2, month 3, right? Like, all of this is about planning. And I think that there's a saying that I'm a big Oregon Ducks fan, and one of our football coaches, for anyone listening, this is Chip Kelly, way back when I was in college, dating myself by saying that. But one thing he said was, the only reason to be nervous is if you're unprepared. I am not nervous because I am not unprepared. And that's the way that I like to think about promotion pathing, right? You want to always be prepared, even if that means you raise your hand and say, I want to be an AE, and then 3 months in it changes, right? Like by no means do you need to feel it's cemented just because you've said something, right? I mean, there's stories of so many people that, go do one thing and then decide, you know what, actually, I want to go swim with dolphins and be a marine biologist the rest of my life, right? And I think that it's really just dependent on what you want to do with your life. And that may not even be, sales, right? But if it is, and if it's an AE, right, flag it early so that you can prepare, right? I think that for me, the 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 people that I have been a part of a team that, they have been promoted, those that have been, that I've had the pleasure of having on teams that I've led, that have raised their hand early and said, I want to be an AE. How can you help me get there? It makes my job easier because I
Yeah.
don't need to go through this guessing game, right? It recognize that your leaders are only as good as really like you're allowing them to be, right? And the earlier you flag that, hey, I want to be an AE, the earlier I can dig in with you and recognize, hey, here's a path to help you get there, right? Chances are, if you've got a good leader, it's not their first rodeo, right? They've been through the promotion process with others. They know what it looks like. They know how to get you to the next level, both from a performance standpoint, from a skills standpoint, even from a political standpoint, right? Because as much as we all may hate to admit it, there are politics that are played in a promotion process. There
Yeah.
just are. And if you have a good leader that recognizes those three aspects that go into a promotion process, they can help you navigate that. And if you're listening to this and you're in a promotion process or you want to be in a promotion process, right, that this stuff is not happening, go talk to your leader, go flag this to them, right? Because recognize that your promotion process cannot be done alone. And I can't emphasize that enough. If you are trying to get promoted all on your own, chances are it's not going to happen. You need a coalition of people. And what I mean by that is you need support from your manager. You need peer mentors at the SDR level. You need peer mentors at the AE level. You need other people, even outside of those circles, that are singing your praises. And I can tell you the people that always get promoted, and always is probably too much of an all-encompassing word. So I'll tone it down to usually get promoted, are the people that are having their peers, their colleagues, their future peers come up to me, come up to the future hiring managers and say, when is XYZ getting promoted? Right?
Mm.
That is such a big sentence. And I don't know how else to phrase that, but that is so important to have other people, peers and colleagues coming up to me, coming up to fellow leaders at the organization saying, boy, when's Chet getting promoted? Like he's crushing it, right? When's Alice getting promoted? She is just mashing her number, right? That is so impactful to hear. And, by no means am I suggesting you to go up to, peers at your organization and say, hey, can you go say this? But I'm
Yeah.
also like not saying that,
Yeah.
right? You want it to be genuine, right?
Hmm.
Because the leader's always going to come back with, wow, like I really appreciate that. Like tell me more. Like
Hmm.
what's making you say that, right? And if it's not genuine, they're going to stutter and they're not going to know how to move that conversation forward. But if it's genuine, they're going to say, this person is doing this and they're doing that, and they're going to be able to come with concrete examples as to why you should be promoted.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a tough conversation for a lot of people, right? And it is not lost on me that asking for promotion and asking for a raise is harder for some than others. But I want to encourage the group of people that feel like it's hard to ask for promotion, or it's uncomfortable, or they don't know if they're ready. Ask anyway. the worst thing that is going to happen is you will be given some constructive feedback as to how you can get there.
Yeah.
Right. And it is always better to have that conversation early than too late. Because once it's too late, you're probably disengaged. You might be looking for another job. And kind of like you said at the jump, Chet, it's one and done, right? You don't want to take another SDR, BDR role. You want the one that you take to be one that you can get to that next level at.
Yeah.
So have the conversation early and have it often.
I love that. It surprised me how many people will start from scratch again, because exactly, it could be one and done if you're successful at it. It could be 12, it could be 14 months, it could be 18 months, but a lot of people, for some reason or another, they start from scratch. And I think you uncovered the winning formula there is start early, right? Start early, start often. That's great concept. I was curious from your opinion, and I think this really pertains to not only the SDRs listening that are thinking about promotion path or might be in a promotion path, but also leadership that's listening, is when setting those expectations, what are some things, and it sounds like you hit on the finding the mentorship and things of that nature, but what are some additional things the SDR can do to set themselves aside from others to make the solid case for them being promoted, as well as what should leadership be thinking about? I should have my SDRs do this if they really think they want to be promoted, right? And you hit on that with finding the peer-to-peer mentorship, being a leader for your current SDR team, things of that nature. Obviously, we can't start doing pricing and negotiation calls as an SDR, but like, what are some other things aside from that mentorship and leadership that builds the case for promotion that you think an SDR could do to make the case for them being an AE?
Great question. And, for me, this really boils back to finding opportunities to be indispensable. And that could be anything, right? One area that I really have seen SDRs step up on is being the power user for pieces of technology, right? And for me, being able to lean on people, if Outreach breaks or Zoom Info breaks or Salesforce breaks, or I need a report, right? If you can be really good at one thing that me as the leader can lean on you for, that is really critical, because for all SDRs listening, I'm telling you, your leaders do not know the tech like you do. And I can tell you, speaking with a number of other leaders, they will be very quick to admit, I haven't been in this technology for 2 to 3 years. Right. And that's typically at the least, right? Most haven't been in this technology ever, if you can believe it. You have that knowledge. You have intricate knowledge of your sales engagement platform, your data provider, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. That's something that if you can really own even just one thing, right? You start to build not only rapport, but more importantly, trust with your hiring manager. And by building trust, even in something small, like, hey, you are my go-to person for outreach. You are my go-to person for Zoom Info, right? Even doing something small like that and doing it well builds that trust, builds that rapport, and earns you additional opportunities for more delegation. And the more a hiring manager will delegate to you, the more they trust you, and the more in your promotion process, they're going to go and use that information to benefit you. I can't tell you, any promotion process, every single thing is evaluated for. Your future hiring managers are coming to your current managers and saying, tell me about this person. What are they good at? What are they bad at? Tell me more. And for a hiring manager to be able to say they're at 150%, that's great, right? But I'm telling you, future hiring managers would rather you be at 140% and be able to be leaned on, to be the power user for Outreach or SalesLoft or Gong or Chorus, Zoom Info, whatever it is, and be able to say, hey, I also delegated these other projects to this person. That is a much more valuable addition than someone that's got 150% performance and nothing else. Now, having said that, I do not want to give the impression that you cannot hit your number. And I can tell you that personally, I will not promote someone that does not have at minimum 100% attainment. But when it comes to if you're at 150% versus 140%, it is likely that the person that's got 140% but is helped out in all these other areas will have a step up on the person that's got 150% performance with no real other aspects on their resume to stand out.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I mean, I'd take someone that was at 100% every month if I knew I was leaning on them for other things, right? Like I wouldn't mind that. You do have to hit your quota, but in terms of that measurement, like if I can come to you and say, hey, let's throw a text in this part of the sequence for this persona in this use case, can you go add that for me real quick? Yeah, it would take me maybe 5 minutes. It's one less thing I have to do though. And if I have someone I can lean on as a leader with my SDRs, like that's super invaluable. Hey, this person just started. I don't do prospecting every day. I probably haven't really honestly prospected more than 5 people in 2 years, right? Can you show this person a little bit about your workflow? Can you show this person how you have your calendar blocks set up? Because you do the job every single day. I don't. I think that's another thing that leadership, for those listening in, leadership do tend to fail on as well, is that power of vulnerability. I think it's really interesting when people start here at Pavilion and they're like asking me questions about things, whether it's inbound or outbound. I'm like, I'm not the best person to talk to about that. They're like, you're our director. Like you should be. And I'm like, but I don't do that job every single day. I would go talk to our team lead on enrollment, or I would go talk to, Jolene or Cody or Sean, one of our more tenured SDRs, right? They're the ones that are doing this job 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I'm here leading the team, doing other things, cross collaborating in departments and working on projects and things like that. And to be able to have those SDRs that I lean on and know that they can handle those projects, they can handle helping onboard someone, they can handle the delegation. Yeah, if you're hitting anything over 100% or over, yeah, you've got that in the bag in my eyes. If you're able to be that person of, like you said, that trust, right? I can trust you, I can lean on you. It's super, super invaluable. I'm kind of curious. We've talked a lot about that SDR to AE promotion path. You've got quite a bit of experience, not only leading the SDR level, but also leading sales teams as a whole, and obviously working more at a senior leadership level. Is AE really also right now the only thing that SDRs are going for? Are you seeing any additional departments or roles that SDRs are looking for promotion paths into? And has that shifted more recently? Is there more? Is there less? What does that look like from your experience?
Yeah, I've seen a big shift over the past really like year and a half of SDRs recognizing that they don't have to be an AE. You see stuff on LinkedIn about, I only hire SDRs that want to be AEs. Get out of here. Like I kind of laugh at that. We had, just talking about WalkMe here, we had probably half the team that rolled to me. They didn't want to be an AE. They wanted to be an AM. They wanted to be an SE. They wanted to be an RM. I mean, it was everything. And they were damn good SDRs. I can run through 120%, 115%. I mean, that was their career attainment as WalkMe SDRs. And if you're only looking at SDRs that want to be AEs, you're picking from the wrong pool. I think that an SDR is really someone that can go do absolutely anything. Yeah. It's such a valuable role because if you think about the organization as a whole, there's only so many people that are interacting with exactly the customer and prospect that you want to be talking to on a daily basis. No one else is. Your AMs are hyper focused on a very specific book of business. They're talking to the same 100, 150, 250 people all year. Your AEs are talking to, again, a pool of 300-500 people a year, right? Your CEO is really probably only talking to dozens of people a year. Maybe they get up to 100 of the best customers, right? Your SDRs are talking to thousands of people each month, right? That is invaluable knowledge for any department: engineering, product, marketing, RevOps, AE, AM, I mean, anything. And I think that SDRs are starting and people that are jumping into that role are starting to realize that, wow, I can go do anything. I don't actually need to decide what I want to do. I can figure it out as I go, as long as I perform, right? And if I get the job done and I earn the trust of my manager and those around me, there will be opportunities for me at any level in any function, as long as I prove what I got to do. You want to go be an engineer? Go be an engineer, right? You're probably going to have to learn how to code or know how to code, right? I couldn't tell you the first thing about it, but if you know how to code and you want to go be an engineer and you're an SDR, go prove it, right? What's to say you can't go do that? And, I think that it's and the data plays it out, right? Pavilion State of Sales Development that was released a week ago actually showed that the career path to an exclusively an AE role actually dropped 10% from 2020 to 2021.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a sign that SDRs know they can go do anything.
Mm-hmm. I think when I was an AE myself, there were two places I always went to. Like, I love the training you get as an AE, but there were two teams I always went to understand who I'm going to be talking to as a salesperson. And the first one was customer success, because they can tell me about the life cycle of the customer after they sign, what they care about, how their business grows, what that plan looks like. But more importantly, the second group was the SDRs and BDRs, because like you said, they're talking to thousands, if not tens of thousands of people a year, right? Depending on what company you're at.
Yeah.
And they have a really good handle on, like, how your ICP responds to the messaging, what the sales outreach structure is like, the success rates, what their feedback is, the kind of objections that they're hearing all the time. And, the more information you can take as an AE walking into those conversations, the better. But the SDRs really gave you a very holistic view of the challenges of the new business side, right? I'm curious to know, in your opinion, do you think that most companies, from what you've seen, do a good job of laying out the possible promotion paths into other departments as well? Or do you think that's an area where us as leaders need to be better at going, I know they're coming in on the growth team, but I need to be okay with letting them know that, like, there are other departments that they can scale into? Do you think we do a good enough job across the board? Do you think we can do better? What are some ways we can improve upon that?
It's a great question. And, I'm going to answer this in two different ways. There are people in communities like Pavilion and leaders in communities like Pavilion that I think do an incredible job with this. And I think that resources like the associate and executive and even the analysts program in Pavilion are excellent resources to learn how to do that. And I think that there are pockets of companies that are very good at this. However, I think as a whole, the sales industry and even the SaaS industry, if we want to get a little more niche, is not good at this. And I think that a lot of it is because as this is happening, and when I say this, I mean SDRs moving into a number of different roles, one of them being a sales development manager. It is really challenging to move into a people manager role very early in your career. I did it, and it took me realistically about 3 years to really learn the nuances of people managing. And, I think that I would be the first to tell you that, had I been, in the situation I was in when I was a people manager early in my career, I was not good at this at all. I didn't know what good looked like. So I didn't know how to build a career pathing that was good. And we are putting, and let me preface this by saying, promoting SDRs to SDR manager roles is a good thing. I'm really glad that is happening.
Yeah.
But if we are not setting those SDRs, now SDR managers and leaders, up with an understanding as to how to build a promotion, a good promotion pathing, that is going to set everyone else up for failure. And to me, that is a big problem right now that needs to be solved for in sales organizations across the world, is that you've got too many leaders that don't know how to do good career pathing aside from raising their hand and saying, this person should be promoted. That is not career pathing. That's not skill development. That's not personal or professional development. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, unless those leaders or managers learn how to do it well it will continue to be a problem. And I think more, and it shines a light on why communities like Pavilion are so critical to the success and the growth of sales professionals and just professionals, period, across multiple functions, because
Yeah.
it's this stuff is scalable. Promotion pathing is scalable. This knowledge is transferable. But unless the leaders and managers have a want or a desire to learn it, it's going to continue to be a problem.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because you and I are kind of on opposite sides of that spectrum. I kind of, to what you said earlier about the LinkedIn and the peer pressure, that was kind of me, right? Like a lot of my friends now are at like VP level, VP sales, stuff like that. I kind of got a slow start into like the SaaS game. And so there was that whole thing. So by the time I eventually moved into people leadership, I was actually like really tenured in the IC world. And I had all that. And I knew, hey, I've had a lot of bad bosses. I know what not to do. I've learned from a lot of good bosses what to do. Then obviously there's programs within Pavilion that help people understand how to be better people managers. Whereas you're saying like you did like more almost on the job training, right? And so then, yeah, you see a lot of SDRs who are good at the job becoming SDR managers now, but to like Simon Sinek's point, right? You're not responsible for the job at that point. You're responsible for the people responsible for the job. And there's really nobody other than work experience to teach you how to be a manager, right? There's like a lot that really goes into it. Even some things that when I went through Katie's frontline manager school at Pavilion, I was like, wow, I've been doing this for 2 years only, but like some of these things make me feel like I'm new because I wasn't doing them. It's like core foundational things I just didn't even think to do. And so I think you hit the nail on the head there with that perception of like why we're not as good as we could be. But like an area in which we can get better is just by understanding that people management aspect and putting the importance on that career pathing. Because, you know, it's like they say in marriage, happy wife, happy life. Same thing with your team, right? Happy team, happy dream, right? We're gonna crush our goals. I want to leave off on one last thing here. I kind of just want to get your feedback for both individual contributors again and leadership. What is like one piece of advice that you would give on putting the importance on cultivating this relationship and this setting of the expectations in terms of promotion path? Like, obviously it'll get frustrating. People behind the numbers, they'll tie it back to their goals. Hey, you want to be an AE? We need to hit this. And, you know, leadership will also get bogged down with things. It's going to be a bit of give and take, but what's your biggest piece of advice for nurturing that relationship and making sure that it stays cultivated and healthy?
Yeah, great question. This should be the top priority for all leaders as they're building their teams.
Mm,
And the reasoning is actually quite simple. The SDR function is a talent pool for the rest of the organization. This is how you build your AE team, AM team. This is 10 times easier to promote an SDR from within than hire someone from the outside.
yeah.
And if you are not creating this culture from day one, your churn will be higher. The resources and investment needed into the function will be higher. It will be less profitable. And you will also see less success. And I think that some may look at this and say, oh, you know, they're dangling the promotion like a carrot. That's the wrong way to look at it. This is just like a sales process. There's a give and there's a get, right? The give is we're going to give you this awesome promotion path so that you are set up to go into any role you want, whether it be an AE or an SDR manager or engineering, whatever, right? The get is you're going to perform at a high level.
Yeah.
And the give get allows the manager to get a commitment from the individual contributor that they will perform at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And the give is I will then do everything in my power to give you the skills to get promoted, whether that's here or elsewhere. I'm going to end there because that's as cleanly as I can put it.
That's the mic drop, man. I love it. Well, Josh, this has been really informative, and I know both individual contributors and leaders listening to this episode have found a lot of value. I know I have myself. Took a couple notes here. Where can people find you, man? How do people connect? Give me the plug. How do people connect with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you? Where are you interacting and engaging with your community right now?
Yeah, appreciate that, Chet. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn. You know, just Josh Roth on LinkedIn. My headline there is I lead diverse teams in SaaS to hit and exceed quota. You'll see me in my little white collared shirt. Feel free to shoot me a message. I have a good rule for myself that I respond to every single LinkedIn message. Even if it's a solicitation, I'll say no. So
There you go.
feel free to connect with me there. Feel free to shoot me a message, and thank you all for listening.
Perfect. Josh, we really appreciate you having you. For everybody interested in more insights, industry best practices, and actionable content, you can connect with the SalesRx community on social media and follow us on Spotify for weekly content and podcasts. If you are interested in your professional development as it stands today and in the future, please check out www.joinpavilion.com. Look for a Pavilion membership, apply for one of our 3 communities, depending on your experience, your role, and your professional goals. I guarantee you it'll change your life. It's definitely changed mine. Josh is a great contributing member of the community as well. We love having him, and we really love having him on the podcast today. So Josh, thank you so much, and enjoy your weekend, man.
Thank you, Chet.
All right, see ya.